Describe in single words only the good things that come into your mind. About your mother?
My mother?
Yeah.
Let me tell you about my mother.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life Podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains language and themes not suitable for all audiences, as well as spoilers for the content being covered. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, everybody, to the High Tech Low Life Podcast with your hosts, Eric and Josh. I'm Eric.
I'm Josh.
And this week, once again, we have a guest to cover Virtual Light by William Gibson. It is Geoff from the Astronomica Podcast.
Hi, my name is Geoff, and I am a Balatro addict.
Dude, so am I. I recommendoed that last week.
Yes, I blame you.
Really?
Actually, I blame Seb. Seb was the one who got me to install it in the first place.
Yeah.
And I kind of messed around with it for a few hands, and I was like, oh, yeah, this seems kind of fun. And then when you recommended it, I dug back into it again, and I was like, oh, yeah, I think I get a kind of a grasp on the mechanics. Let me play a few hands, and then it was 3 a.m.
And then the sun's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Seb got me to actually buy it because it had been recommended to me a couple times. I'm like, finally, when I read that one, I'm like, let's just do it. And yeah, it's a fun, weird little game.
It's great. It's I don't know. It's like Dwarf Fortress and poker loved each other very much, and then 9 months later, Balatro.
Yeah,
was
Dwarf
born.
And like video poker. It does scratch a video poker itch that I always have. Under the surface.
I think the lo-fi, it's got like almost looks like scan lines from a CRT, but not quite. Like I don't know.
You can crank those up in the settings. You can make it more CRT-like or less.
So it looks like a video poker machine in a bar.
Yeah, kind of does. I mean, it looks like solitaire on an old-timey computer.
Yeah, like I would expect to see this game being played in a dive bar on Bourbon Street.
Sure.
Well, off Bourbon Street. Like some lady's like pumping her social security check 1 quarter at a time into this thing.
Well,
yeah, unfortunately, there's no gambling aspect, or maybe fortunately, definitely fortunately, there's no gambling aspect to it. But check it out if you're into roguelikes and poker, which seems like there would not be many of those people.
Yeah, it does not seem like a Venn diagram that is anything but the null set. But in fact, if you or Magic the Gathering, like if you like figuring out how the interplay of mechanics amongst cards.
I mentioned to Josh the math element, and he did not seem like that would be something enticing. But it's a fun kind of math, right?
Yeah, it's the fun kind of math.
Yeah, everybody likes the fun math.
Well, look, you guys can keep your video card game. I'm just going to stick with my classic dancer addiction, and of course, skin.
Is that because it gives you a brickbat level 24-hour raging boner?
Yeah. Nice. Priapism, baby.
That's a great segue, Josh. We are covering Virtual Light this week, and probably next week, given how these conversations usually go.
Yeah. I feel like I got a fair amount in me.
Yeah, I assumed you would.
And I mean dancer. I'm pounding my dick with the butt of a pistol right now.
I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I really don't see you as a loveless character.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think
you're
of
much
what
more,
you see him as.
Much more of a, I mean, you'd be much closer to Rydell, I guess.
Yeah, I think Josh is a Rydell.
Yeah.
I could absolutely see you ignoring orders being shouted at you from your superior officer as you save 2 kids.
Yeah, that's absolutely happened.
I was that superior officer.
Are you sure I'm not a Sammy Sal? Dang my lang.
Yeah, I don't know what your piercing level is like.
Actually, my piercing level is exactly 0. I mean,
That's true.
yeah.
Like intentional piercings.
Yeah.
I've witnessed you be unintentionally pierced many times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I like to think of myself as a Skinner. There was one particular line he said in the book, which maybe you would get to at some point, but he says, you can always sell tools.
Yep.
And then
it's
always guaranteed that you're going to need the tools you sold shortly after. And that's the story of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. You can take that to mean physical tools or skills, knowledge. You're going to need it later, but you can burn it out right now for slightly more.
I go for the advanced level of that, which is buy a tool that I need, and then when I go to put it away, put it right next to the previous identical tool
version. Yeah.
that I bought that I forgot that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Been there.
I own. You would not believe how many palm-sized sanders that I have purchased over my life.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is the High Tech Low Life podcast where we talk about cyberpunk stuff. And this week we're talking about virtual light, which I think is the 3rd time I've said that, so I won't bother going again. Before we actually really start talking about virtual light, we're going to talk about the news of the world. And I have not checked it lately.
That is a valuable tool for mental health.
Yeah, it really is.
Right now.
So I do have... Actually, I probably shouldn't do that joke. I had a joke where I was going to like laughingly jump in on like, hey, did they find out what happened to Kate Middleton? And then you guys would be like, yeah, she has cancer. And then I'd be like, oh, shit, did something happen? Oh,
yeah.
She's actually locked in mortal combat in a pit beneath Buckingham Palace with Charles.
Yeah.
That's
way cooler than anything any royal has ever done.
I bet I could come up with something cooler, but I'd have to dig way back into...
I mean, English royalty does not have a lot going for it.
Yeah, it'd be pre-Norman shit that I'd have to, get to, I think.
I feel like there was some news thing that happened really recently that I wanted to talk about, but I'm blanking.
Is it Trump's properties getting seized by the New York Attorney General?
Yeah, that's going to be a thing, right? Monday?
I mean, I feel fairly sure. Yeah, it's on the docket.
Yeah.
Unless somebody swoops in, some benevolent Russian oligarch swoops in at the last minute.
It could also be the Saudis.
Yeah, I feel like they're smarter than that.
I don't know, man. Sawing off the head of a journalist who had an appointment with them that they publicly acknowledged.
Yeah, but I mean,
come back on them.
What it didn't.
Yeah,
what was the consequences
for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Like, was that like a smart move on their part, or was that an insane move that just happened to work out okay?
I think they just accurately recognize that they can do whatever the hell they want and have
that's true.
Well, it's like, I mean, that makes me think of some recent news. The Boeing whistleblower that recently, quote unquote, killed himself.
Yeah.
Which is,
did we not bring that up yet on our previous episode? Because that's the most cyberpunk shit I've read in news in a long time.
I think that happened the day before, or maybe the day after we recorded last time.
The wild thing about that is that he had already delivered almost all of his testimony.
Yeah.
And it's all of the like really damning stuff that had already come out on transcript in trial, which leads me to believe that's actually a stronger indication for me that a Boeing executive had him killed, because that's the kind of slapdash, half-assed kind of execution that they would attempt.
Right.
Yeah, that's some MBA shit.
They killed him with the quality of work that they put into building their airplanes.
Yeah.
If engineers were still running the company, he would have been killed months and months ago.
They they meant to shoot him, but when they pulled the trigger, the front half of the gun just fell off.
Well,
is that bolt supposed to be there? Don't worry about it.
they have a Post-it note stuck to the gun. Don't pull this trigger.
Yeah.
It has been in the front of my mind because I am flying to Vegas next week, and I'm flying back in a Boeing Max 8.
Oh,
so that's not cool. But,
have fun.
Enjoy that close up view of the Rockies.
Not that close. I'm trusting as I do when I fly, I'm trusting the pilots and flight attendants unions that if they felt like they were in danger, they would be striking. They wouldn't be going up in the planes, right? Right?
Right. Yes, 100%. You're going to be perfectly fine.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Those guys gained tons of power over the past 10 years.
Anyway, good times. Corporations
Good times.
having their ex-employees killed who are blowing the whistle on them. Nothing dystopian about that at all.
No, not even a little.
Shall we transition cleanly into media and recommendos?
I think that sounds like a good idea. And also, I would like to commend your clean transition, calling out that we're going to do a clean transition.
Thank you.
Yeah. That is a brilliant segue.
Well, I practiced it before you guys got on. That being said, I don't have any. I've not really been watching anything except for playing Balatro and watching reruns of 6 Feet Under. So I got nothing.
I, in fact, have a recommendo inspired by a recommendation from Geoff on the Discord. I read a book that I had previously downloaded by an author named, is it Ray Naylor?
Yes.
Nayler. This book was very short. It's called The Tusks of Extinction. This is not the book he recommended. He recommended another book by the same author. It is a novel that takes place like 100 years in the future and is told partially from the point of view of a conservation worker, a Russian conservation worker who had died in Africa, killed by poachers, who has her mind implanted in a cloned mammoth.
Whoa.
That is pretty cool.
It's very neat. It's also like pretty short. I literally read it today, like, couple hours, that was it. The structure is pretty interesting. The ideas it raises are good and interesting, and the ethical problems that it
the ethical
brings up.
problems in planting a murdered human into a mammoth?
Not as much with that, just with the concept of de-extinction. And,
right. There's nothing ethically wrong with implanting a human consciousness into a giant extinct beast.
I'd like to go on record right now that if it is available after my death, just go ahead and stick me right on in a giant extinct beast. Any
a fucking Gompathier or something. Yeah.
Oh yeah. A giant ground sloth. I'll take it.
Nice.
Yeah. It's the idea behind it is, and the justification pops up almost immediately, so it's not a spoiler. She was one of the very few last people who had any experience of elephants in the wild, because wild elephants went extinct just after she died. And she's basically the only person with wild elephant experience who had their memories transcribed. So these mammoths that, like every elephant after that, was raised in a zoo or research facility. So they didn't have any of the wild elephant instincts and stuff. So they can't function in the wild. And mammoths also don't have any of that stuff because they can't learn from other mammoths. So she was installed as a matriarch of the cloned batch. It's a good book.
That's really cool. The Mountain in the Sea is the one that I recommended.
Yes.
And I stand by it. It's really, really good. Longer length. I don't think it's a afternoon read, but it's a quick read. And it deals with humanity's first contact with another intelligent species.
Ooh.
And it kind of dives into the nature of intelligence itself. There is an AI character who has conversations with the protagonist about whether or not they truly are conscious.
Yeah.
It's like it's everything that scratches every itch that I have. So
Okay. That book is literally next on my list because you recommended it, and I enjoyed the hell out of the one I read today. So,
and this one is also in a near future dystopia. So, if you need something to kind of bum you out a little bit, yeah, I think it would be a good candidate for your show.
Yep,
we like doing books around here.
That we do.
I read. I mentioned this on the show before, but I read Babel at you and Josh's recommendation, and that was a good little piece of literature.
Yeah,
I was really glad to hear you enjoyed that. That author, R.F. Kuang, has a number of other books, which I haven't read, and I was talking to someone the other day about them, and looking at the synopses, they are real dark.
Oh boy!
So, yeah, I thought the same thing when I think looked through her Wikipedia, so I'm like, oh wow, okay, all right, we're going there, huh?
Yeah, there is a very detailed recounting of a fantasy version of the rape of Nanking. So,
oh shit!
Yeah, so it's like the chillest possible historical event to cover.
The chillest possible. Yeah. I've not heard it described that way before, but
yeah.
This podcast has rekindled an interest in reading for me. Weirdly, like I used to read a lot, and then I stopped for a very long time. Mainly thanks to podcasts. So mainly thanks to you, Geoff, and people like you. And then I've started again, but since I don't want to listen to sci-fi and cyberpunk stuff, all my private listening time is usually more fantastical or fantasy stuff.
Gotcha. Well, I like to consider myself the anti-LeVar Burton, and my mission is to get people to stop reading
and listen to weekly audio dramas.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you and LeVar Burton could fight it out in the Octagon.
If I ever met LeVar Burton in person, I would behave exactly like Troy on Community.
Yeah.
That I saw when you tweeted earlier today. I was actually thinking about it. He has 3 utterly fucking iconic goddamn characters.
Yeah.
And they're all in different spaces.
It's amazing.
It's fascinating actually that somebody can be that iconic that 3 times like that.
Yeah, I mean, the reading Rainbow is generationally defining, or multiple generationally defining.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek: The Next Generation, obviously. He's one of the people that's always going to have popped from that.
Mm-hmm.
And fucking Roots, for God's sake, like drama. I mean, serious fucking drama that I don't remember. I think 60% of American households were watching Roots as it aired, according to the ratings. I mean, it is fucking weird.
Yeah.
How he has 3 giant things.
I wonder if you tallied it up. I wonder, he would definitely be in contention for being someone that the most people have seen.
I mean, I totally believe it.
The most people have seen. This is intriguing to me. Like people all over the world throughout time.
I mean,
he would
prior
be up
to
there.
Mass broadcast, there's a very narrow window, right? Because before broadcast, it was regional. Like you would have to see somebody on tour. And then after that, it got so fragmented and ramified that nothing will ever have 60% of U.S. households tuning in ever.
Yeah,
right.
From here on out, or for the past 40 years, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, he very well might might well be in there.
I'm still thinking like a Taylor Swift would probably beat him out.
In terms of pure numbers, yeah, I bet she possibly would, but like given percentage of the human population, she might not. I don't know.
Interesting thought experiment.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any more recommendations of anything you've seen or read?
Shogun.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, Shogun. That came out right as my Hulu got cut off, so I've been really bummed about that.
These last two episodes have been fucking fire.
Yeah.
I liked the first 3 and was like, oh, this is a good show. This is really good. And then 4 was fucking incredible, and 5 was even better. Like, and there's still 5 to go. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. They've shifted in the adaptation. They have recentered it more on the Japanese people, which I think is a very strong positive change that they've made.
Yeah.
Rather than all being about the English guy that saves the day.
Yeah, I have no arguments with, like, and it's been, I don't know, it's certainly been 10 years at least since I read any of those books, maybe 15. But I have exactly 0 fucking objections to what they have done to what I remember of it.
Yeah, it's a great translation, so to speak.
I need to re-up Hulu for a couple of weeks and bang it out. It's the way it works, man. Like I hadn't watched Hulu in months, and then as soon as it goes away, something awesome pops up on it.
You might know someone who knows someone in the Republic of Desire who could get you downloadable files of that. Just saying.
Yeah, it's possible you know somebody.
It might be worth talking about, but also like if something's legit good, I don't know. I like to support it. I don't know. That's a conversation for another time, I guess.
And also I would like to give Shogun a firm salute for casting Hiroyuki Sanada, who...
Oh, yeah, that guy's great.
Fucking hell. And I saw a thing on Twitter day before yesterday, which was stolen from a TikTok of just little, like, 2-second video segments of his entire career from when he was, like, 10 or something in his first role.
I think it was even younger than that.
6, maybe? Yeah. And dude becomes a smoke show at 18, and boy, it does not quit. Like, he's 60 now, something like that, 62? And Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's wild.
He is not just an amazing fucking actor that I love to see in everything, but damn it, that is an attractive man. Like, just super handsome, and for 40 years.
Yeah, he really aged like wine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, he might be the person that the most people have seen.
It's probably got quite a few.
I mean, Ringu was huge.
Yeah.
All right. So do we want to talk about virtual light?
Oh, I don't know why we want to do that.
Is this not the Balatro episode?
I could do it. I could do a 2-parter on Balatro.
I'm out.
What's your favorite Joker? No, let's not get into it.
Oh, man, I was right on the edge.
Before we do that, I'm going to run a promo for another podcast right here in this spot, and we'll be right back.
Well, hey there, folks. Welcome to Astronomica, a Stars Without Number actual play podcast.
Our story takes place 6 centuries after the collapse of an interstellar empire, as a band of ne'er-do-wells pick through the ashes.
We're not ne'er-do-wells.
If anything, we're oft-do-wells.
When have you ever done well?
We've had more than 160 episodes. There's been tons of well-doing.
That's too much for him to go back through. Then he can listen to one of our regular synopsis episodes and get all caught up on the backstory.
Okay, fine, but you're rare-do-wells at best.
Agreed.
Okay.
Fine.
Guys, do you think we should scrap Astronomica and just make a show called Rare Duels?
Yes, I do.
No.
Yes.
We've got more than 3 years of zany characters, unique planets, and novel sci-fi situations. We've built an awesome and inclusive fan community. We are not starting over.
Okay, but I mean, Astronomica kind of sucks. Rare Duels sounds awesome.
Don't listen to them. Astronomica is great. We're really proud of it. Check us out on a podcatcher of your choice or visit astronomicapodcast.com. Excelsior.
All right, we are back after that lovely little promo from featuring a voice that you just heard and are about to hear again.
Hopefully a better conditioned voice that's not ravaged by tree gametes.
Yeah. It happens. Yeah. It's that time of year.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Josh, this is your time to shine.
It is. We are going to talk about Virtual Light, William Gibson's third and a half novel, fourth and a half novel, depending on how you count the difference engine. And before I get into, I've got like 3 sentences that encapsulate the plot. I want to introduce this novel as I feel it, which is reading this book to me is like sliding into a warm bath, or the opposite, cool sheets. Like it's just the optimum level of comfort for me. And I mean, I'm sure that's just due to my specific relationship with this book, but oh fuck, the vibes are immaculate.
It's great.
It really is.
I would go so far as to say this is one of, if not my favorite Gibson novel.
I have been fighting with myself for the past week and a half since I reread it, which I reread it twice in the past 2 weeks, like since we decided we were going to do this. About like trying to figure out how to, I think ranking William Gibson novels is, at least for me, it's going to be an exercise in futility, but this can so easily be number one. I mean,
yeah.
I read it 1.5 times.
Oh, okay, cool.
I listened to it all the way through, and then today I had to work, and I listened to it a second time. I got a little over halfway through the second time because it's actually pretty short on an audiobook format, and so I think I listened like 4 hours today, which put me over the halfway point, which I was happy with because I missed some stuff on the first run through, and I'm probably going to finish it out for the second time, even after we're done with this. But yeah, I also thought it was just a great little kind of low stakes. I mean, not completely low, but lower than some of the stuff we're used to dealing with on this show.
Yeah, we're used to world-ending threats.
Yeah, and just kind of, I don't know. It felt small and cozy, I guess, like you said.
Yeah, it's such a, like, and again, that's just, I'm sure a big part of it is just my experience with this book going back 31 years now. Like, cozy is exactly right. it's just everything is built for comfort.
Even when you're talking about the Sprawl trilogy, you're dealing with high concepts like artificial intelligence and mega corporations and stuff. And this one, it's all there in the background, but it's more just a kind of a, I don't know, how would you describe it? It's not like a caper story, but
it almost is like a heist.
It's
a reverse heist.
Yeah, actually, that's in any normal Shadowrun scenario, we would be playing War Baby, Loveless, and Orlovsky.
Yeah, Freddy,
Rub-a-dub,
fucking Smovalov. Yeah. Okay. So the most basic outline of this book plot is there are 2.5 sort of plot threads. One is a bicycle courier in very near future San Francisco, who, because she's feeling a little peckish and in a bad mood, pickpockets some very fancy sunglasses off of a guy at a fancy party she's not supposed to be at.
Also because he was an asshole.
Yeah.
Feeling her up.
He's a skeeve.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. And then there are people pursuing her for half the novel. One of these people is an ex-cop named Barry Rydell. And then he figures out, oh, wait, we're the baddies, and helps her escape. And then the last half of a plot thread is a Japanese sociologist named, I can't remember his first name, but Scooter Yamazaki, who is studying the decommissioned Bay Bridge, where Chivette, the bike messenger, lives with her roommate, father figure, I don't know, whatever. And he explains the world as we know it. And that's it. It all comes to a head. People are pepper sprayed. It's great.
I also wanted to point out, earlier we were picking out which characters represented us, and I think Geoff has to be represented by Sublet due to his allergy problem.
Yeah, good point.
Well, one time I did suck on the handlebar of my friend's big wheel, and it turned my mouth inside out. God, this is definitely Gibson's funniest book, I think.
It really
there's so
is.
much dark humor throughout.
Yes. That is one thing that I definitely decided in the past week and a half. Like, if nothing else, this is his funniest. And I mean, Gibson's not an unfunny guy. He's got a lot of humor, even though it's very fucking dry. But this one, man, he's just zinging them left and right.
Yeah. So here's an interesting thing that occurred to me when I was reading this, especially in the context of the show from the last time I was on. This is set in a near future dystopia. The main male character opens thinking about his car that's badass as he's driving around.
Oh, you're right.
He's on his way to meet up with a spunky courier who physically transports stuff all over the place. There is
notably, she's not 15.
Yeah, well, this is hands down the better book.
Oh my God,
I do.
I agree.
Even though it does have an incredible dearth of swords.
Yeah, no swords.
There's one 4-inch ceramic knife that.
Yeah, with a fractal edge.
Yeah,
I actually, like last week, I tweeted just in the vague hopes that he might notice it. Notice me, senpai, at William Gibson, asking, is there, since so much of his stuff comes like directly from the real world, was there a specific knife that he was thinking of when he wrote that description? Because that is one of so many things in this book that has been haunting me for literally 30 years now. In my mind,
it's described very detailed for just a knife that a courier carries on her.
Yeah. It's something, it's stuck in my fucking brain, and it has been like constantly. Like probably not a month has gone by in the past 30 years that I haven't somehow thought about that knife. And
he didn't respond.
Yeah, that's
he did not, sadly.
He doesn't know the clout you have in the community, apparently.
Yes, apparently not.
But I was going to say, like, so the spunky young courier girl is detained improperly by Russians.
Oh my God, you're right.
And then there's an agglomerative structure where most of the last part of the act takes place.
Yeah,
and then hackers save the day.
My God, that is fucking wild.
Yeah, it was so weird.
Which one came out first?
I think Snow Crash, the year before.
Snow Crash came out in 92. This one came out in 93. So there's no way that Gibson read Snow Crash while he was writing this.
Yeah. They must have both just taken some inspiration from the same places.
I think so. I mean, they're both, Bay Area, near future technology thinkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is fucking wild. Thank you for pointing that out.
There was a tied together cargo ship mall as well in this one.
Oh, you're fucking right. My God.
Oh yeah, and he even has to flee to the Northlands in an RV.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
And they stop at a weird trailer park.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Okay, you've just broken my goddamn brain.
I know. This is the first. I've read this book, I don't know, a couple times. This is the first time that ever occurred to me.
I definitely was feeling similar Snow Crash vibes as I was listening to it, but I hadn't put those details together until you pointed them out like that.
That had never once occurred to me, and I've read this book who knows how many times. I've read Snow Crash a number of times, and it had never occurred to me to tie them together. Wow.
But there's definitely some similarities between Chevette and who's the Snow Crash?
YT.
YT. I wanted to say CB.
Yeah. There's definitely, they could be played by the same person, basically.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had some questions about the book, not about the story of the book, but about the book itself. How well was it received? Do you know, Josh? And in Gibson's canon, how is it looked at? Because this is hard to find on audiobook.
That is actually an interesting question. I think from my perspective, how it was received, it did pretty well at the time.
It won the Hugo and Nebula, I think, right?
It was nominated for both, I think, and I think maybe it won the Hugo, but not the Nebula. Anyway, it was pretty well received at the time. It sold, pretty decently. I think the next book, Idoru, in the Bridge trilogy, sold and was maybe received a little bit more positively, though, honestly, I don't think for some reason, I just don't think this book did as well as maybe they were hoping. I mean, it still did well.
I wish there was a way to look up book makings like you can movies.
Yeah.
Makings.
As far as it goes in his canon, it is in a weird spot. Or at least in my perception, having been in online cyberpunky spaces for, 25 years. Obviously everybody talks about the Sprawl trilogy. I mean, that's that's one of, if not the foundational cyberpunk things. That's what's going to go on his tombstone.
Right.
Which isn't to say, I think most of the people who would put it there would also say, no, he also wrote a bunch of other great fucking books, but Sprawl Trilogy is on the tombstone.
Well, yeah.
Everything else is a second tier to that.
Yeah.
But I think the Bridge Trilogy is... Okay, so Gibson's career, Sprawl Trilogy, then the Bridge Trilogy, which this is the first book in. Then there's the Blue Ant Trilogy, starting with pattern recognition in 2002. And I think the Blue Ant Trilogy is regarded somewhat more fondly than the Bridge Trilogy. And I have some personal theories on why that is, or at least it's more recognized because the very short version of my theory for that is that the Blue Ant Trilogy is not set even the 5 minutes in the future that the Bridge Trilogy is.
Mm-hmm.
It's set either now or in the past 6 months.
9/11 happened while he was writing it, and he rewrote he rewrote a couple parts of the novel to incorporate that.
Yeah,
so it's very of the moment.
It really is, and it's I love pattern recognition to death. I mean, it's So it marks a bit of a, like, and it's always so weird you have to, when you're navigating like how people think of things and how things are received, pattern recognition was really well received because since it's not set even 5 minutes in the future, a bunch of literary reviewers took it and ran.
Really?
And yeah, it's so that kind of moved, even though it's still on the sci-fi shelves, it's regarded as much more of a literary non-genre work.
Man, publishing is obnoxious.
It's really, I don't know, it's all really weird. And we'll get to them eventually. I have for 20 years now contended that, and Geoff, you can feel free to agree or disagree with me, that the final book in the Bridge trilogy, All Tomorrow's Parties, which is, I think, the shortest book that Gibson has ever published. Neuromancer might be shorter, but I think All Tomorrow's Parties is the shortest. In my mind, because I was reading all of these as they came out, in my mind, All Tomorrow's Parties is the defining last book of the 20th century. And I know that's not factually the case, but I feel that it
wrapped it up.
Yeah, it's honestly, like, it's very much so that's that. I mean, that's how, we've moved from fucking laser beams and science fiction, super science fiction spaceships to cyberpunk to this. And I'm not going to talk about what this is because we'll get to that in a few, at some point in the future. I really feel like that is the very end of the 20th century. And when, like, I remember we were living together, Eric, when pattern recognition came out. I remember sitting on that hammock in the backyard.
Yeah.
And the sky was yellow because it was storm season. And I was just sitting there reading, and I knocked through pattern recognition like day one sitting. And that, in my mind, is the first book of the 21st century.
Interesting.
Like, they're back to back, they are bookends, but facing the opposite direction. It's very firm in my mind, just from the vibes that each book has.
Well, I've not read either of them, so I can't add anything to that.
I'm so yeah. Soon.
That is really interesting because it does kind of close the door on. There's something sort of hopeful about like the 90s cyberpunk, cultural thread, where it's pictures of a dystopian future that we have a chance to avoid.
Yeah.
There's not that hope anymore. Like, that door has been closed, it feels like. I don't know.
Yeah. It's and I would love especially Eric's input on this, but one thing that because I spent a lot of time thinking about this book in the past 2 weeks, because it's been a number of years since I read it. You could probably go back to either Creek of the Week or Johnny Mnemonic or Johnny Minute and figure out the last time that I read Virtual Light, because I probably mentioned it.
Yeah, you probably.
Like, rereading this book for the first time in, I don't know, 5 years maybe. I did a lot of thinking about how this book worked and how it functions in my life and how it functions in the landscape of the world. And I think the thing that really knocked me out when I was seriously considering this stuff that I'd never thought of before was that the future in this book, okay, this was published in 1993. I think it theoretically takes place in like
2005. I think it's
2005, something like that.
I don't know if it's like in my audiobook. it opens with a little, very, very brief synopsis of the world. I think it says 2005, and I don't know if that's in the actual book or if that's just for the audio.
It's not textual, at least in terms of the text of the novel, because I was kind of paying attention for that. But yeah, it's like 2005, 2006. Like, this book is believable as like 5 years in the future, like starting at 1993, as opposed to basically every other cyberpunk work that I can think of, which, even if they're dated, even if they're dated 5 years in the future, none of them make sense as 5 years in the future. They're all way further out than that. Like, this Virtual Light is a future that I would believe literally any element of this took place in 1998. I mean, there is nothing outside of the realm of possibility or even likelihood.
Apart from the nanotech.
Yeah, I was going to say the nanotech and the glasses.
But even those, as in 1993, it didn't seem like that far off.
Yeah,
true. That's true.
Those are like leaps, but they're
You're right.
not.
I'm not.
Yeah,
we had the Virtual Boy Nintendos.
Yeah, we did.
the pinnacle of future technology.
Yes. So we knew it was coming. In fact, virtual reality, like described in this book, has been 5 years out pretty much my entire fucking life.
Yeah.
And still is.
Yeah. And the thing is, with it being set seemingly so close, like even, and he gets way more into it in other books, but even like the stuff that people are described as wearing, it seems immediate. Like, this could almost be a novel of the present, when it comes out. That lends it, like, this book and this whole trilogy, and they get somewhat, like, the other books' plots get more. But the thing is, this is a dystopia we're looking at. It's, like I keep saying in my mind, it's like 5 years in the future. And people win at the end of it, like the good people win at the end of it. So that feels like that means this dystopia is not certain. We can get out of this. Is that making sense to you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a big part of the comfort of this book.
Yeah, even though it might not be the reality anymore.
No.
No.
Yeah,
it just takes you back to a time when it was.
Well, that's why, like I was trying to say with the hopefulness of dystopia back then was, these are cautionary tales that avert your course, oh great and wise, lest we wind up here.
Yeah, this is.
Where do you think it went wrong?
They decided to create the Torment Nexus and monetize it.
We kept creating Torment Nexuses left and right and offering IPOs.
Yeah.
VCs were like, give us a Torment Nexus.
Everybody needs a Torment Nexus in their pocket.
I mean, what my answer to what went wrong socially is always capitalism. That's what went wrong.
Yeah, that's kind of the magic answer. As much as I hate it,
like it's a very simplistic answer, but that's because it's at the bedrock true. It's the core cause.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, there's still time to turn it around.
Turn the beat around.
Just kind of convince everybody with all the power to do the opposite of what they've been doing. It's easy.
Well, a new world will arise. The question is it from the ashes of the old or, deliberately and sensitively and intelligently chosen? Looks like, we've picked one way.
Yeah.
So we never really did answer my earlier question, though, is why is this so hard to find on audiobook?
That's a good question.
I guess when I couldn't find it, I assumed that maybe this was like an under the radar Gibson book that didn't have as much love. But
yeah, I guess I got way fucking off track. It is these days it's relatively under the radar, but it did well at the time. And it's not like people don't talk about it. It's just that compared to his other two trilogies, it is under discussed in my mind.
And also, yeah, like I think it is like it's in an analogous world to the Sprawl trilogy, so it's not as groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm. True.
Whereas, like with pattern recognition, he broke from the tradition and was describing, was moving into a more literary space.
Yeah.
So that picked up more attention. This is more like, oh yeah, it's another cyberpunk trilogy.
More of the same, even though it's clearly not the same.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I think it's very, very distinct. But
yeah.
I think so all of these characters in this, like all of the characters in Neuromancer are in the Sprawl trilogy are like the main characters. Like they are helping the AI transcend and blast off to Alpha Centauri. Like these are people who are who could be in that world, but just like they're bike couriers,
Yeah.
They're lowlifes.
That is one of the things that in my, notes for chapter 2 of this book, my note is Barry Rydell, just a dude.
Yeah.
He's just like a guy. He's not a fucking, elite level hacker who got, nanotech poisoned by, criminal gangs that he ripped off, or a fucking cool street samurai or, mercenary. He is a dude who
he's a guy looking for a job. Yeah. He's
And Chevette, while she has a quote marks cool job, she's also on the edge of poverty. And lives in a shack.
In a slum.
Lives in a squat.
And fucking Scooter is a grad student doing field research. I mean, that is that is a marked difference from the Sprawl trilogy and then later the Blue Ant trilogy.
Yeah.
Sort of the professions of the characters.
And the size of their position within the world. I think that's one of the things that I like about this book.
I love it.
Like in pattern recognition, like he really gets into the head of
Casey
Bomber Jacket. Yeah, Casey. But a lot of times, like you're just sort of like in the Sprawl trilogy too, like you're just over the shoulder of the characters. You don't really have a lot of interiority.
Yeah.
And in this one you do. Like these are much more human characters. Even the scumbags, like you get inside their head a little bit. And I don't know, I like it a lot. I think it's honestly better written than Mona Lisa Overdrive, I'd say. Like he has more of a flair in this one.
I don't disagree. I think like it's borderline disgusting to say this because the guy started his novel career with the line, "The sky above the port was the color of a television tuned to a dead channel." But boy, he has improved and improved and improved over time. Yeah. And these this, I don't know, it is so hard for me to, like, I want to argue each and every side of what's the best William Gibson book. Having just read this one, it's this one, baby. But
well, that's also always my answer. Is like, what's the best Gibson book? It's the last Gibson book that I read.
Yeah,
but this is always perennially. This is always at the top of my list. I love this book.
It's so fucking great, and it's so like it never it doesn't even stick its head above ground level at no point. Like in pattern recognition, Casey is moving in like, relatively high echelons of shit. I mean, there's a lot of ground level stuff, but she is a cool lady with a really cool job. And, it's just neat. This book, like, nobody in this book other than fucking Cody Harwood and Karen Mendelsohn, nobody other than like those two people are anything more than on the edge of poverty at every second. And, you know, it's a very ground level view, which even like...
I think like one of the opening scenes of it is when Chevette goes to that highfalutin party.
Mhm.
That's when you really... Gibson's laying that out for you. Like,
yeah.
These are two worlds. She's not a part of this one.
Nobody
is.
It's a novel called Virtual Light, and it's got a picture of someone in VR glasses on the cover of it, and it's written by the guy that, you know, arguably invented the modern conception of cyberspace.
I mean, coined the phrase cyberspace.
Yeah, and none of the characters pretty much know how to even turn on the headset.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, it's great.
Yeah.
By the way, what a great cover this book has. Just the like kind of blank face.
Oh yeah,
with the backlit glasses. I love the cover of Virtual Light.
That's the one that I have had for 30 years.
Yeah, I remember seeing it probably in boxes I helped you moved.
Yeah,
I had this paperback, mass market paperback, and read it and so many times that it literally fell apart.
Yeah, I exactly the same. I got the. Like, I actually remember purchasing this book because it came out in September, I think, of...
September 6, 1993.
Oh, all right.
I knew that. Definitely not reading it on Wikipedia.
I used 2 separate Walden Books gift cards that I received for my birthday in November that year because I was getting, like, $10 gift cards.
Nice.
I used 2 separate Walden Books gift cards to purchase it, and it would have been November 7 or something at the Hutchinson Mall. Because
I've been to that Walden Books.
I knew that this book was out. There is no possible way I can afford it. They didn't have it at the local library. And I was like, I got these gift cards for my birthday. And I was like, okay, we're going to fucking Walden Books tomorrow. Let's do this. And and then like a year later, I got the paperback because I didn't want to drag the hardcover around.
I like there's so many things that date that anecdote to a very specific time.
Yeah.
Like Walden Books.
Yep.
Buying a hardcover for less than $20.
Yeah.
In a mall.
In a mall, yeah.
That someone would give you a gift card for anything other than coffee for $10.
Anyway, I wanted to steer this train a little bit more on track.
That sounds great.
How do you think about like maybe setting up the book, maybe doing the intro chapters, and then we'll take a break and start episode 2 after that.
Okay, that sounds awesome.
Sounds good.
Okay, the very first chapter of the book is a viewpoint character that doesn't last terribly long. We are in the head of a courier who just refers to himself as the courier.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Mexico City watching rockets falling on the northern edge of the town. He is
as all of Gibson's books, it's a very cool beginning.
Yeah, the fecal snow blowing in from the drought,
gunships hovering.
And he is engaging in a lot of ennui and doesn't know where he knows where he is, which is Mexico City, but he doesn't know what he's doing or why he's doing it. He just goes places and carries a package and is in love with a program in some hollow glasses.
Living the dream.
Yeah, he really is. And that's like the first chapter. The world sucks. It's not a blasted nuclear wasteland and everyone's living in domes. He's in a nice hotel. It's just the world is shittier than it is in 1993.
That's painfully accurate to reality.
Yeah.
I mean, I would venture to say that you could probably find some places on the outskirts of Mexico City in 1993.
Where
staggering wealth was juxtaposed with desperate poverty.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just, this is a shittier version, you know.
Literally.
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, that's the first chapter is an introduction. This guy exists above the world to some extent and travels across it, but not in it. That sounds like a thesis. Everybody else is in the world.
One thing so this guy turns out to be, who is, I think, always nameless. I don't remember him ever being named.
He refers to himself as the courier, and then at some point, when
I think they say his name,
Freddy and Warbaby and Rydell are investigating, he's identified as Blix, but
Blix, that's right.
With the specific reference that that's not his real name. That's just what he checked in as.
Right. But and he becomes known as the asshole to all and sundry.
Yeah.
And he's sitting in his car watching porn.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
At the end of the chapter, you find out with the driver in there.
Driver's there.
Unseparated from him, like the driver turns around.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a normal guy.
There's a lot of like world building established instantly in this.
There really is.
One of the neat things that Gibson mentions the face masks being used against viroids.
Yes.
And all kinds of like pandemics end up cropping up and playing a major part. But viroids themselves were unknown outside of plant disease.
Yeah.
Until this year.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And they've now recently found human analogs to viroids.
Hooray.
Hooray. They're called obelisks because they use an oval protein.
I saw that. Yes, I saw a paper on that somewhere. Yeah. So...
But pandemic does play an important part in this story and the shaping of this world, as it has and will continue to do in reality, I feel.
Huh? Did I miss something?
Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, this is going to definitely get a 0 on the prescient scale.
No shit. This might be the most prescient.
Don't worry about it. I might have just repressed a whole bunch.
You're lucky, motherfucker.
Good for you. Yeah.
Tell me how you did it.
Bring me along.
I'm beginning to feel like all that stuff's just going to boil up someday out of nowhere.
I do believe like this is getting ahead, but at some point a character's talking about how there used to be we got the poor people and the rich people, and there used to be some people in between, but not anymore.
Yep. That's I know that I made notes about that.
It was, I mean, it's one of the defining themes of the book.
Sal. Good old Sal.
Yeah. Okay. So in the second chapter, we get into some ass kicking. It's called Cruising with Fucking Gunhead. This dude, who is the main character of the novel, is driving around in a fucking English-built, like, borderline tank. It's got 6 fucking wheels. It could, like, electrocute people. He's got cool sci-fi weapons that shoot fucking cubes of rubber.
I like that gun.
Yeah, the chunker is.
You can bounce it around corners.
Yeah. And he takes the short version of the chapter is he takes this high impact. He gets this call and he got to go in and save these kids. And it turns out it was all fake. He's actually a fucking like paid by the hour security guard with a Velcro patch who drives around and makes rich people feel better. And then he gets scammed by some hackers. His name is Barry Rydell. He means well. He's from Tennessee.
Yeah, you're missing possibly the most important point of this chapter, which is that in this future, the height of sophistication and cultural pinnacle is Memphis. Yeah. So screw you, Nashville.
Most important part of this chapter to one person.
One thing that I made note of in this chapter is this is actually the longest chapter in the book by a huge margin. Like this is probably 3 times longer than any other chapter easily, because it's setting up the plot, like a bunch of plot shit that's happening with Barry Rydell to set up his character. But he's also giving you, he has to describe his entire life before he goes on an armed call, an armed response call.
I will say this, my first listen through on this, like the downside of how I consume these books while working, and that sometimes work will momentarily take my attention so that I miss even just a few seconds. And then, so the way it was jumping back and forth and describing his past and then his present was a little confusing, which is why I wanted to re-listen to it a second time, which definitely made it all make sense. But upon re-listening, I really liked how they were presenting his current life as opposed to his past life and introducing Barry.
Yeah, it is a really solid bit of work.
He's just got this kind of lame job, and he's thinking back about the horrible path that took him to where he's been.
Yes. Yeah. There's and it's also this chapter, and then I think it's the next one that Barry's in. There is so much world building and scene setting just in the stuff that is going to kind of become Gibson's calling card, like in the scene where Barry is describing or remembering pressure washing the paint off of the inside of the shell of an old Safeway.
Yeah.
For condos. And it's just this piece of world building that doesn't actually mean anything. But at the same time, it conveys a huge sense of the world, which, by the way, is exactly the world we're living in. Like
5 years in the future.
I think, honestly, condos in the shell of an old Safeway is 10 years in the past at this point. They've used up all the Safeways now.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's interesting too. This chapter, one of the things actually that made me start thinking about this juxtaposed with Snow Crash. Gibson. This is the first Gibson book, I think, where it's this artfully done. The language for Barry Rydell's chapters, even though it's not 100% interior to his head, it reflects who he is.
Yeah,
like
it's not train.
The courier chapter is like telling poetry about the fecal flakes of snow, lending a hepatic air, and Rydell is thinking about a woman who wears panties from Milan and she slides all around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the courier was like thinking of the porn that he was watching as like a mechanical metaphor for the Soviet post-industrial process.
Yeah.
Like
that's true.
And when Chevette jumps in, like her chapter, the language shifts as well. Like this is the first time it's very subtle. Like it doesn't jump out at you, but it's very well done. Much more so than he would do shifting POV in the Sprawl books.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
It is. And I hadn't really put it together until you mentioned it, but thinking back to Mona Lisa Overdrive, where 3 very different personalities, the tone did not shift that much between them like it did in this book.
Yeah, it kind of made it hard to place. Like you didn't really know necessarily where you were.
Yeah.
But I think it's also interesting that the characters, when they're introduced, all of them, the first bit of the narrative is them looking at and thinking about architecture.
Yeah. Well, that's again Gibson calling cardish stuff at this point.
But it's the courier is looking through his windows and thinking about the laminated layers that protect him from the outside world. Rydell is thinking about his old job where he was like stripping down cinder blocks to deliberately show the ravages of time,
expose the integrity of time.
Yeah. And Chevette is sitting in this very precarious, improvised place, but thinking of it as home longingly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Scooter? I can't remember how they introduced
Let's see.
He starts thinking about systems. He thinks about how the systems of the bridge are rigorously... Here it is. The integrity of its span was rigorous as the modern program itself. Yet around this had grown another reality, intent upon its own agenda. Like, that's Scooter's thoughts influencing the language choice.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
Man, this book is good, guys. Right? Oh yeah, I think I got off on a fucking run. Did you guys both like this book?
I hated it.
Oh. No, yes, I did like it.
Okay, good.
Sorry, I think I diverged the train from the tracks.
No, we're just. I mean, no. I think it's there were tracks that needed to be trod.
Yeah,
I don't think trains trod, but whatever.
They definitely don't.
In the future, trains have feet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, all right. So
that's 15 minutes in the future. Cool. That's my. I'm starting a new genre of train punk.
Okay.
Ooh, I'm in.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh no, is this a descendant of steampunk? Fuck's sake. Yeah, let's recreate colonialism, but with gears on it.
So,
okay, so
just to get back, Barry's main problem was that he witnessed a brutal homicide and then killed a guy, right?
Okay, no. Barry's main problem is that he was a cop fresh out of the academy for 18 days. He was the first responder in a hostage situation. And then the hostage taker, who was a high-earned dancer, this is the first mention of dancer. It's going to come back.
Oh, yeah.
Was about to what Barry thought was shoot a grapefruit can full of cement into some kids, having already killed somebody else. Turns out the other person that he thought was dead was just unconscious.
Right. Okay, yeah.
But Barry unloads in the hostage taker's head and is then immediately becomes a cop in trouble. So in 1993, William Gibson was already in on the fucking reality TV bandwagon. It's going to increase in the next book by a huge margin.
Right. Yeah, I've heard about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it's some of the main thrust.
Yeah. So then some things happen. He ends up on or is going to be on a show called Cops in Trouble, and gets dragged out to L.A. By a lady in fancy Milan underwear who talks dirty and slides around.
Slides all around.
Who then drops him for a, loses interest once a fancy serial killer case comes around. And he ends up becoming a rent-a-cop with a fun partner named Sublet, who looks like a, quote, clan-ass Nazi werewolf. With mirrored contact lenses.
But in reality is maybe the nicest guy in any of the books or movies we've covered so far.
Deeply gentle. Conflicted about what he's doing.
Loves movies.
Easily harmed by the world.
Yeah, he really is maybe the nicest character we've ever met, and that's including like children.
Yeah, just a delightful little redneck.
Yeah, a wholesome little shit kicker. Yeah, I love this dude.
Yeah, Sublet's a good guy. He's just out there doing his fucking best, man.
They do kind of introduce his religion at this point too, which is fascinating to me. And maybe we talk about it later because it's only kind of lightly introduced at this point.
Sublet has an interesting religion. And also
fucking very Snow Crashy.
It's literally a Reverend Wayne.
Yeah,
it is.
I think that's where I was clicking with Snow Crash when I was listening to this again. And once again, I'm not accusing anybody of theft. I think it's just
No, yeah.
These guys both had their finger on the pulse of the times.
That's one of the things that I've found about William Gibson over the past 30 years, and there's a handful of other authors who are the same way in relation to me. William Gibson and I and Nick Harkaway, Charles Stross.
Man, Nick Harkaway, that's a good pull.
Yeah, and Dave Hutchinson. And I want to say there's one other dude, but I can't think of. Actually, to some extent, Neil Stephenson. These guys, these authors, tend to write things that I have already been. Oh, Warren Ellis is another one that I have already been thinking about, like in Pattern Recognition, Gibson's 2002 novel. There's a minor subplot about Curta calculators, which is a type of mechanical calculator invented by a Hungarian guy named Curta in the 1940s, the early part of the 1940s, when he was staying at a camp. It's a really interesting mechanical device, right? And about a year previously, I had learned about Curta calculators and was like, wow, this is a really cool thing. I ought to try and get my hands on one. And this same pattern happens repeatedly with these authors and me. So there's some level of like zeitgeist that I don't know where exactly it comes from. And I've got like a dozen other examples spread between these authors where I'll be like spending some time thinking about something, and then a year later I read, the new Nick Harkaway book, and I go, motherfucker, we were just like having the same thoughts at the same time. So I kind of assume that the weird confluence of virtual light and snow crash is similar.
Yeah, it doesn't just happen in science fiction. It happens in all forms of media. You see movies come out at the same time with the same themes.
And there's a thing in there's a thing called steam engine time. Okay,
it's related to Geoff's. I think he patented that already. So
yeah, that's going to be a central facet of my my train punk.
We already forgot what it's called.
Yes. Yeah. Would you like me to explain it for the audience? Because I know you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Steam engine time is the fact that that when the steam engine was invented, like the relatively efficient, decent steam engine was invented, even if you had shot James Watt in the forehead 6 months beforehand, somebody would have come up with a good working steam engine within about 3 weeks, one way or the other.
Oh yeah, okay.
And this happens over and over in history, like with fucking airplanes and rocketry. Like these things percolate at certain frequencies, which just means that, we've got the dude who invented it, but there was also a dude who came up with it and launched it like a day before, but didn't have, press on hand. Or, the same with Darwin and what's the guy? He's got the Wallace line, Alfred Russel Wallace. Mm-hmm. They independently both came up with evolution at basically the same time. It just so happened that Wallace was on the, quote, wrong side of the world to be able to publish it first.
So the early 90s were just ripe for a virtual light / snow crash story to come out.
Yeah, I really think so. Sorry, I dug too deep into the historiography of...
You delved too deeply and too greedily.
Drums in the deep.
It's okay. I'm here to put us back on the golden path.
Whoa, hello. Shining Path? Wait, are we Shining Path here?
We are.
Oh, wait, I thought this was a God Emperor of Dune.
It is. I am the God Emperor of Dune. Or will be. Just gotta.
Yeah, you gotta get wormified first.
Just gotta
Spoiler
get
alert.
these little leeches to latch on for good.
He would never be on such a bad podcast if he wasn't the Lisan al-Gaib.
Only the Mahdi can be so
Lisan
humble
al-Gaib.
as to appear on this podcast.
Yes, exactly.
Please, Lisan al-Gaib was my father's name. Call me God Emperor. Anyway, shall we introduce Chevette at this point?
Yes, that sounds great. Oh, yeah. So really quickly, 2 sentences version. He and Sublet go on a call. It turns out there was a hack fooling them into thinking there was a big armed assault. And he gets fired from his rent-a-cop job. Don't worry about it. So chapter 3, we meet another courier. This courier is a bike courier in San Francisco. Her name is Chevette. She's fucking cool. She wears an ancient motorcycle jacket. And she makes a delivery in a very fancy building in San Francisco. It's exactly like Quicksilver Messenger Service, if you remember having seen that movie. Matthew Modine, 1980.
Oh, yeah.
1986. I think he was a bike courier in San Francisco, if I remember right. Anyway, she makes a delivery in a very fancy building, sees a very fucked up Asian lady in a elevator, and the Asian lady says, "Where party?" And Chevette escorts her to a party. The party is a very fancy party full of very fancy rich people thrown by a guy named Cody Harwood. And she meets a fucking creep there. He's just kind of a dick. We also get a little backstory about as she's interacting with these, rich people, about how she lives out on the bridge, which is visible from the building's windows. Mm-hmm. And she treats it just like I treat KCK.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you might have heard,
it's fine.
You're just a person. It's fine.
Yeah,
don't go looking for a fucking fight.
Yeah, Memphis rule: don't start none, won't be none.
Exactly. Yeah, and yet Eric and I both know people who are deathly afraid.
Yeah,
won't go places after, won't drive through places after dark.
It's really baffling considering it's all just like families.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's a very good encapsulation of that. The person she's talking to is like, it seems so savage and amazing to live out there. And Chevette's like, that's just fucking people. I mean,
Chevette loves it.
Yeah, it's great.
I kind of love it. I mean, all
like
the descriptions, I wouldn't mind living in a decentralized, seized infrastructure. Space. I think it'd be awesome.
Skinner's description, I know I'm ahead of jumping the gun, but his description of seizing the bridge is good stuff.
It's
talking about being in the air. I guess we can get to that later, but I feel like there was no plan. No one planned anything. It was just time.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yes, it was steam engine.
Some of that optimism.
Yeah.
That you were talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. It's that's a really good, and that was. Yeah, we'll get to that.
There were times in 2020 where I felt
it seemed like it was fucking steam.
Is it time? Is this happening? And god damn it, it felt like it was about to for a second.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Okay. Anyway. She has a little more interaction with this drunk Eurotrash asshole who makes a bunch of highfalutin statements about how we are in the same business. I am also sort of a courier, and he's fucking annoying and shitty. So she steals some glasses out of his pocket and goes away. Like she catches an express elevator down, and that's going to be the end of that plot. Never comes back to haunt anybody. She rides her bike away. It's all fine.
Series wrap on Chevette.
Yes.
I love Chevette's her ethos. She never stole things, or anyway, not from other people, except this one bad Monday. It was an asshole.
One asshole. Yes.
I think she steals things like 4 times over the course of the book.
Yeah, constantly.
Yeah, she's stealing regularly, and every time she's stealing, it's from people in this. Like normally, she's just like, I'm not going to say like me if I was playing Minecraft. She's a stealing from corporations person.
Yeah.
It is morally indefensible not to steal from corporations.
Hard agree. And remember, everybody out there, if you see somebody shoplifting, know the fuck you didn't. Just, you didn't.
True.
Anyway.
Unless they're shoplifting like Proud Boys t-shirts.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, now that is a moral quandary.
Wow, I don't know what I'd do in that case. I don't want the Proud Boys getting that money.
I also don't want any contact with the police.
Yeah, maybe just set the whole thing on fire and...
Shoot them? I can shoot them.
In Minecraft.
Yeah.
With a paint can full of... a grapefruit can full
of cement.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we've introduced... Well, no, we got to do Yamazaki, so...
There was also a really quick something that I missed saying in Chevette's chapter, like right at the beginning when she's getting into this party. There's a specific line about how, and this is going to come back to haunt us for another 9 books, that everybody at this party were rich people and foreign too, though maybe rich was foreign enough.
Oh, yeah.
So we're back to, remember, Gibson's major theme through his entire career is that the rich are not us.
Yeah, they are alien.
They really are. And it is less, outside of that and a few other things, it is less visible in this book than in many of his others, although it is still there. But keep that in fucking
I think it's
mind.
very much... I mean, it's not as prominent as like Neuromancer or something, but I think it's definitely there.
I think front and center with Rydell and Karen Mendelsohn.
Yeah, I guess that I didn't think of that as
Also, I don't know that I agree from reading it, but the Wikipedia was saying that that Warbaby and Freddy are supposed to represent like an upper class.
No, they are the. I guess they are the class traitors.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're the police.
Yeah, they are. You're right.
Yeah.
Even though they aren't police, they're the class traitor police who will be first against the wall.
Well, introduce us to Yamazaki. He's kind of a POV character, although a minor one.
This is actually a couple of chapters in the future, but so we meet Yamazaki, who is usually referred to as Scooter by other people, specifically Skinner, because initially Skinner gave him the nickname of Yamaha, then moved on to Bad Motor Scooter, and then Scooter. So it works. Skinner's head works exactly like mine does, is what I'm saying.
I love Skinner.
He's fucking great. And so Scooter is a Japanese student of sociology. I can't remember what university he goes to. It says it at some point. Not important. Yeah. He arrives on the bridge, which at this point we've heard of, but we haven't been to. He walks through food stalls and stalls of people selling paperback books and whatever else, and he walks through a crowd and gets up to one of the suspension towers and climbs up part of the tower and takes a funicular, not actually a funicular, but a utility truck lift up to the apartment at the very top of the tower, which is where Skinner lives.
With Chevette.
And Chevette also lives there. And
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say that the language in this, like, he is rapturous at walking through this bridge.
He loves this fucking bridge. Yeah.
Yeah. He is.
And I love this description of it. It's great.
It's really, it's, I don't know, this might be unrelatable to a lot of people, but I am a field scientist. I know lots of field scientists. I know lots of anthropologists, which is the not studying white people version of sociology. And all of us feel this way about our work.
Yeah.
Like, this is, you could just about transpose this chapter and the language of this chapter into a couple of years ago. I went to this site that we're still trying to figure out how to work because it's too big and too amazing, called Bee Cave. And it was, me and 10 other archaeologists. And we were all like this for literally a 6-hour day. I mean, just the rapturous, we are in our element, and this is what we are meant to be doing.
At one point, he's described as chasing turds around the sewage system excitedly.
Yes. Yeah, because much of it is clear PVC, and he wants to see, like, it all goes into
to see where it goes.
It all goes into a 20,000 gallon tank and then gets flushed into the city system by a gravity switch. It's fucking amazing. He's learning how the systems work.
But to Skinner, he's just some weird kid chasing turds around pipes.
Yep.
That's great. I also think that William Gibson has never personally been in a bucket truck, like getting lifted up.
No.
Because it's pretty terrifying the
really
first few
is.
times.
Yeah.
And there's no way that he would not have had a vivid description of that in this book if he had ever been in one.
Yes.
You know what William Gibson has done, just to go back a little bit, or maybe we're not there yet, but Rydell discusses being in the police academy, and he goes through this system called FATS.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
FATS is a real thing, which I know because I participated in a miniature version of it because I, at one point in my youth, thought I might be a cop and took a cadet law academy as a high schooler. And they put you through like a miniaturized version of the Highway Patrol Academy. And
it's exactly like Lethal Enforcers.
It basically is, except that it's Lethal Enforcers if it's the size of like a wall. Like it's a projector. And I'm sure it's much more high tech now. And in this future, I'm sure it's some type of virtual reality thing, which would be a lot of fun. Which is basically how Rydell describes it as a lot of fun, which it was, is how they roped us children into becoming cops with a lot of fun tech things and role playing.
Yeah, every fucking teenager loves an FPS. I mean,
Except you're not, supposed to shoot them, but you. I mean, a lot of scenarios ended up with you shooting them. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Okay, so
there's no de-escalation simulator.
Yeah.
No, it's funny that they also had a system called Red Gun, which was basically role-playing traffic stops. And I swear, you were supposed to determine whether you were in danger or not, but like 80% of them ended up with the guy was trying to kill you, and you should draw your weapon on them first. Like, it's very clear how cop training is fucked up.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, cops are bad.
So do you have a place we can wrap this out of part one?
I'll finish this scooter chapter.
Okay.
And then, so we get a very vivid description of the bridge from someone who is super enthusiastic about it. It's at this point that we get some explanation of what happened. We don't get the full version of it yet, but we learn that Tokyo and a big part of Japan has been destroyed by a very large earthquake that people called Godzilla, and laughed about it.
Yeah, the Americans do.
Yeah. And shouldn't oughta have laughed about it, according to the soup vendor.
Yeah. Good old soup vendor.
Yeah. And we learned that the bridge was decommissioned after earthquake damaged it structurally, so they couldn't do traffic on it anymore. And that's pretty much, and also Skinner, we learn, is one of the originals of the bridge, and he's an old man that Chevette lives with at the very top of the tower. And that's kind of the three main characters. 4.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Scooter's barely a main character.
See, that's why I said it has like 2.5 main characters.
He's important for a couple of spots. So,
yeah, he's there to elucidate backstory and surroundings.
He's also kind of a stand-in for the bridge itself.
Yeah.
And he gains. He's great for he's transcribing Skinner's reminiscences, so it gives you a great bit of world building that doesn't feel clunky. Like it's the perfect setup. Instead of saying like, as you know, when the quakes took out the bridge,
Yeah. And also another thing that has been popping up through this point in the book and will continue through the rest is there is a character who never appears like in life named J.D. Shapley. He died. But was responsible and was responsible for, at some level, it takes us most of a book to figure it out, the cure for HIV and AIDS. And he has become effectively a secular saint. And that Shapley threads through literally the end, like from chapter 1, probably page 2, maybe page 1, through, page 364, like the last page.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but it also very much places this book at a point in time.
Which is in no way relatable at all to how we live today.
Yeah, especially when you have characters talking about whether or not you should get the vaccine.
And I don't know. I think the prayer hanky is going to do me good. I mean,
get a COVID prayer hanky. Yeah, sublet's not totally on the vaccine bandwagon.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's how the book starts.
All right. Well, this is a good point to stop part 1. And we'll get back into the rest of the story on part 2. We're going to have to find a way to kick that speed up a notch, though.
We will.
Okay.
We're at a tight 108 right now, so.
Yeah, it's fine.
And we got some break to edit out, so. Yeah. We will be back next week to finish it. In the meantime, let's let our guest plug his plugaciousness.
The most pluggable Huxtable?
Oh, no. I'm not going to touch that with
a
gin glass full of Spanish fly.
Gets worse. It keeps getting worse.
A car's besweater.
First and foremost, I'd like to plug my new genre of speculative fiction, Train Punk.
Oh, can't wait.
I'm very excited for this.
Mm-hmm. And then also Astronomica Podcast, where I play a weird robot and have a great crew of fellow cast members who are very funny. I love playing with. We play the Stars Without Number role-playing system. It's a sci-fi OSR style actual play podcast. And you can find us at astronomicapodcast.com or wherever fine podcast RSS feeds are sold.
A weird, beloved robot.
Thank you.
All right. You can find us on Linktree. That's where everything is. Linktree/hightechlowlife. Click all the links on that Linktree.
Oh yeah. If I could just a plug for you guys, check out their OnlyFans. It's well worth it.
Yeah, baby.
Boy, hey. And if you're gonna utilize our OnlyFans, I do recommend checking out the Astronomica site and then going through the portal to the merch page where there is genuine NZ suppurations to be used personally.
Mm-hmm. For any sort of situation where you need personal hydration.
Yeah.
On your outer integument.
Yes. Cheers.
That's a hell of a sales pitch. Josh, how do we end a part 1 with a quote?
Oh, shit. Rich people and foreign too, though maybe rich was foreign enough.
Good enough for me.
Like it.
Bye.
This has been the High Tech Low Life Podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60seconds, email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com, and find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music by Nihilor at nihilor.com. Thank you for listening.
Keep it moving. Come on, what are you waiting on? Let's go.
They're trashing our rights, man! They're trashing the fluid data! They're trashing! Hide the planet! Hide the planet!
Shut up and get in the car.